Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Emma Masterclass, the ultimate guide to music data for music managers with Soundcharts. Lovely to see so many of you here. My name is Michelle Ronquillo, and I am Emma's event manager. Just a little bit about us. Within Emma, we unite music managers organizations across 16 European countries, which represent more than 3,000 managers across Europe. We've made it our mission to strengthen European managers globally through our Empower program, which encompasses education, advocacy, networking, and research. Empower is a project co-founded by the European Union. If you want to know more about us, or if you want to stay up to date with the upcoming events, make sure you visit our website, follow us on social media, sign up to our newsletter. I will put all the links in the chat. And also at the end of the session, when you log off Zoom, at the end, there will be a super brief survey that we will be very thankful if you fill it out, as your feedback is really important to us. Just a reminder, there will be some time for some questions, so please write them in the chat. And I'm going to share the agenda of today. Let me know if you can see that correctly. So today we have Ayel Gigan. He will tell us a little bit more about himself and Soundcharts. Make sure to add your questions. Ayel, over to you. Thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. So hello everyone, nice to meet all of you. So my name is Ayel and I work with Soundcharts. And Soundcharts, in a few words, is an analytics company based in France. And our mission is to aggregate everything we can know about any artist and his works, his recordings out there. And we've been doing that since 2015. And so very happy to be here today to talk a bit about music data. We will also have a quick presentation and video from an artist manager using Soundcharts, using the platform daily. And so his name is Gerard from B Sharp, and he'll talk a bit about that. But maybe first, before I head in the floor, I'll talk a bit about music data and how we at Soundcharts what we define as being music data, what we do with it, and why it's especially crucial in this point in time. So first thing, what are we talking about when we're talking about music data and data analytics? So at Soundcharts, we categorize data in 5 main blocks. So you have social networks, so the artist's core audience. You have the rankings, so the charts, streaming charts, have playlists as well. And the last two being media broadcast, TV and radio, and sales. The last two are historical channels, and the industry has been collecting these for decades. And the fact that it's extending now to other blocks is just a sign that broadcasts now are not only in the media, they happen online. And that's what we're about. We take part of the traditional monitoring with the radio plays that you can review directly on Soundcharts, and we are mainly about aggregating social networks, streaming platforms, and everything that's now very, very decentralized. So why does music data and data analytics might matter today for artists and managers? So you have 3 main reasons that we can point out. First, it's more available than ever. Data, as I said, has always been available through a lot of different forms. You had the Billboard ranking that has existed for 100 years. Labels would buy physical records to try to be #1 in the top charts, which would be boosting sales. And so they were looking at those numbers at the time. The difference now is that this digital world has transformed the data and fragmented it. And instead of getting weekly or monthly reports. Now we have data in real time for individual territories. And overall, companies managing data like Spotify or distributors, Gerald will talk about it in a few seconds, or us, have lowered the costs so that it becomes more democratic, I'd say. So today, an artist and manager have more data about them and the profile of the artist than a label executive used to have 10 years ago with $10,000 of equipment. Um, but in the end, the data that we're looking at is the same. It's just more spread over different channels. The second reason is that people, it's a consequence actually, people are more educated than ever. So today in the industry, we see many professions that didn't exist 10 years ago. There were no data scientists, analysts, etc. And in A&R, it was someone going to the studio to listen to demos. It wasn't at all the same job in a way. And the industry has evolved a lot, and even people who don't have data in their job title actually look at the data at one point because you receive pitches and you want to, in the pitches, you have storytelling, and part of storytelling is, well, screenshots of platforms and radio plays. And in place pitches, you will always have data points that are highlighted to illustrate a specific story. So the artist who was playing on BBC Six and has already filled that such and such concert venue. And so the impact is an increased average education. So now everyone has, like in his pockets, like some kind of access, easy access to like the current landscape and state of the art about artists. And that's what we are about today. And we think that this is evolving exponentially as we're going into a world where we have less and less physical sales and social networks that are hybrids with music in different forms and new ways of consuming with the explosion of user-generated content, which we track. And so this means is the third reason is that the data is more fragmented than ever and sometimes hard to track. When we launched Soundcharts 10 years ago, um, um, there weren't even like anyone asking us to track Spotify playlists because this was starting to be a thing. But like at the time, it was not really it. Today, we have dozens of platforms. We track hybrid networks with YouTube, Instagram, with short videos, the profile itself, official uploads, user-generated content, etc. So the more fragmented it is, the more the more the use cases around it differ, and the more work there is for us in the end. So we're happy to have sort of created this backbone at a time when the world was a little simpler than that. So I'll hand the floor to Gerard, who's not here, unfortunately. But we do have a video from him. So I'll share my screen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to this masterclass. Unfortunately, I cannot be present with you live. I have a little bit of an issue later today, but I had the time to record a video this morning to talk about my usage of different data tools as a manager before Al is going to actually present you with Soundcharts as a project. Um, to talk a little bit about myself, I am currently head of administration at Be Sharp. We are a management company providing label services for quite singular projects. Here is the landing page showing a bit the artists we are working with, so Petit Biscuit and Haute Zen, both as managers. And we are also producing a few other artists. And as you can see, we had really amazing projects in the past with us. I've been working in the music industry for more than 10 years now. At first, I was in the project management side of things, working on release strategies and marketing campaigns. When I joined the shop, it was for me the opportunity to switch into business management, which I think is a position more in line with my abilities and interests. And so now I'm handling admin for the artist I'm working with, from budgeting to contracts and rights management. That is to say, the data that matters to me is first and foremost the financial data. This one, as probably many of you know, is often available at the end of a quarter with some delays on what's actually collected. For instance, copyrights being the longest to actually appear on a report, sometimes 1 year after the event where the revenue was actually generated. For streaming revenue, we also have a couple months delay. Then, aside of keeping track of the financial data, I still have to keep an eye on different data analytics tools in order to follow the health of the artists we're working with. As some of you probably do, I am distributed directly, and I have access to the distributor analytic backstage and analytics tool. It allows me to follow the general trend, the different kind of platform split or consumption split, or to have a broader view of every single track or releases. At the end of the day, for the majority of our project, and I believe it will be the same with you, the main platform would be Spotify for artists. So, and it's quite it's an easy tool to go to. So I check every other day in order to see if a specific release is performing well, and it has quite some details to analyze. Would it be for general consumption or specific tracks or releases? Being completely honest, I never use Deezer for artists, and I actually never go to Instagram Analytics or TikTok. I don't even have access to the artist account, but this is specifically because this is not my job to work on these platforms. I've been using Soundcharts since 2017, and I've seen the platform evolve quite a lot and different tools being added along the way. At first, if I remember correctly, it was specifically a tool to check if a track was added to a DSP playlist or played on radios. And slowly, every data accessible elsewhere has been integrated into the platform. I'm not gonna lie, today I'm not the expert of Soundcharts, and I keep on being surprised on what's actually available on the app. But I know for sure that it saves my team and I quite some time in our daily activities. Whatever real-time data insight I'm looking for is going to be there for all my artists, as you can see, like that. The artist I presented you with earlier on the B Sharp uh, website is easy to find on one click. Um, and instead of asking my team or looking for a specific information for ages on all the platforms, I tend to go and check every other day, curious on how the projects are actually performing. I know though that it cannot completely replace a platform like Spotify for artists. As I said earlier, Spotify being the leader of the market, data analytics was the data analytics tool is really powerful to track the success of a project on that platform, which is the limit, obviously, because then you have to check every other tool for every other platform, which would take a lot of time. But, and Ian is probably going to speak about that, Spotify being the main platform, they have quite a lot of information, specifically from this one. As a manager, being focused on finance, I can actually follow the impact of our investments thanks to Soundcharts. For instance, here you can see I'm on the profile of Jean. He's a French artist, so it would be um, an invented strategy. But let's say we hire a radio PR in the US. Do we actually have radio play, so I can actually see the charts, radio charts, and check in which country we have a track being played. If I do an influencer campaign and we invest quite some budget, I can then track within seconds if we have specific TikTok links and how many we have TikTok links, and then the impact of the campaign. If I want to check the week of the release, I have access to the playlist. They are organized by position, number of likes, the date it was added, everything that probably I is going to speak about more in detail. But these are the main use I can do. Also, it's quite important to talk about this airplay and the way a track is um, the data analytics related to radio as far as I'm concerned, because one thing that is quite difficult to track is copyright and revenue associated, the royalty associated. When a report is available, I can actually compare what's the revenue that has been generated according to my PRO, SACEM in France, and the number of plays that I can see on Soundcharts. And it's an easy tool to actually request an investigation if needed on copyright. It's the same for neighboring rights, obviously. Whenever I need to file a complaint, sorry, I need to complete a request for a grant or for a support request. Usually, the institution is asking for a lot of information, social information, data information, number of plays, number of fans, etc. Before, I used to go on every platform and check for this data by hand. Now I know that for every artist, I can just follow the count over there. So this is my specific use, and probably I will have like specific moment during the week where I need sound charts for a thing or another. What is actually interesting is that I use this one at the same time as Spotify for Artists and my backstage, so I have a complete view of the health of a project. And at the end of the day, obviously, my job is about finances, so I need to use another one, which is called Curve for royalty management, but that would be for another talk, and I cannot show you the data since it's financial. As of Soundcharts, I am currently using a pro account, so I have access to the entire database, which is quite interesting to compare. If I want to check my artist with another, in order to have an idea of that strategy, what we could do, or even if the artist wants to collaborate with someone and want to have a view of the artist, it can give you an interesting way to compare different artists, and as simple as checking data on everyone in the planet, which is at the end of the day quite an interesting tool in order to discover new talents to work with. But probably I was going to speak about that in details. I'm not going to share my own strategies right now. Have a good presentation, and let's be in touch if you are interested in Be Sharp.
For the rest of that presentation, I'll be talking a bit more about Soundcharts and what we do. I also saw a question about the difference between us and Chartmetric, and maybe I'll get back to that at the end of that meeting session. So the first thing that people ask us when they log into to a tool like Soundcharts is which metric should I follow? And so I'll be sharing my screen. Oop. So now it should be better. Yeah, which metrics to follow and on which tools. So the first thing to know is that there are different stages of development and several things to look at depending on the artist's size. First, when you are a small artist, it's a bit useless to look at your streams or physical sales or even playlist entries because there are just no stats. no TV or radio broadcast, no editorial support. The idea is then rather to understand your audience and its demographics, and who is that audience. And you rely in that case mostly on social networks. Then when you start to have editorial support from platforms, you can start to look at the editorial support of other artists that are about your size. And the more the project grows, the more the data panorama expands. And so a lot of tools exist today, as Gerald mentioned. So for radio tracking, you have tools like Warm or Radio Monitor. You have first-party analytics, like Spotify for Artists or distributor tools. And you have also all the tools for music marketing, like co-brand, which tracks song usage on Instagram, etc. But what's interesting about Soundcharts is that instead of saying, do I have any radio plays, and paying a dedicated solution or wandering through all the rankings manually to see if you appear in any of them, we offer a complete map, a 360 degrees approach. So finally, the question is not so much what data should I follow as a manager. These are maybe questions for us building apps and platforms and receiving feedback. It's maybe the most important thing at the beginning is to choose a tool in which like you trust to analyze the data and provide you with insights. You self-monitor an artist on a platform, and if something out of the ordinary happens somewhere, you receive notification, which is less time consuming and anxiety inducing than looking at empty graphs on the dashboard. So finally, those tools would be quite interesting to receive information proactively. So this is what Soundcharts looks like, talking about receiving information proactively. And this exists as a mobile app and as a dashboard. We refresh everything daily, and even for some specific data points, it's a live refresh. So if you have a new radio play in Auckland, New Zealand somewhere, you already know it using Soundcharts. So you can use the tool both as a way to do artist discovery. At the left of my screen, I have a little discovery section here. And you can also use it as a way to search for specific profiles using their name or using their identifier on Instagram or on any platform, and go to a specific artist profile and start understanding what is it about this, the size, setting up alerts, etc. So the first thing that you see when you do the next step, search for a profile, land on it and start to investigate, is the overview. The overview is here to tell you which are the high-level numbers for the audience. So where is the audience here for that artist? Is it mostly on Instagram and Spotify? And then, like, do I have any TikTok activity out of the ordinary? Do I have any playlist entries that are also out of the ordinary? And do I have any radio plays I should know about? So yeah, those are the key things that you can see and review. And as I mentioned, when you are looking at artists who are at a very early stage, the best thing to do is to add all of the possible sources that exist so that you're sure to track everything you can on one page and one tool. So here maybe there is a TikTok profile or a social profile from a foreign country that is missing here. You can fill out the source, send that over, and we'll start tracking the number of followers, generate reports about the artist audience, etc. So then it's about how to use all of that for artist development. Well, first, you have that functionality of setting up alerts that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to go there, fill out the sources, and set updates, you can, so that as soon as something happens, a chart entry, a playlist entry, or anything, you're the first to know it before anyone else. Another thing that you can do is say, well, let's dive in the data and try to understand what's happening for a specific vertical. For instance, let's look at radio plays. I see that in the past 28 days, my number one market is France, but I've been played once in the US. Let's investigate like what's happening, and let's take a step back and see, since the first time Soundcharts spotted something for the artist on air, what has happened since. So in terms of radio, we track web radios, local associative radios, and many more than 2,300 radios globally. And Soundcharts is not only about the top 50 and monitoring the biggest FM radios out there. If you do electro, your first play might be on a satellite radio in the US. So many small artists have their first play on a web radio, and at the beginning it feels like it's nothing, but actually something is happening. In that case, we always advise artists and their teams to tweet and say, hey, at radio, blah, 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 I can't believe it. I'm being broadcasted on your playlist. And you're guaranteed that as it is a small radio, there is less chance that many people will tag them, and therefore a great chance that the community manager will retweet it. If you find the DJ who played the track, that's even better. That can lead to more plays. Also, if you want to work with a PR agent, even a small PR, you can tell them that there is a play on a web radio and an associative student radio. You can tell them that you have some momentum and that you're ready to move forward with the project. So now you have a story to tell. So this radio view tells you which radios plays the most the artist songs. Tells you for any release, you can visually see when the plays happen, and also you can deep dive and say, well, for a specific radio, what's happening, and you search for the radio name, and you have the full listing directly available. So all of that is already available with our free tier. So you can just log into Soundcharts, set up some alerts, and fill out the socials, and you will always have the last 5 to 10 radio plays that will appear on your dashboard. So you can see all of the last radio plays, even though you're not a paid subscriber. You can do exactly the same for playlist entries. Let's say I want to monitor the latest additions here, or let's say I want to monitor the biggest playlists that now have specific artist songs in them. And so for playlists, same thing. You see that something happened, you can then talk to your distributor who thanks the platform, etc. So that's how the first relationships are created. Something on which we're very strong is the tracking of the artist's social content, meaning first his profile, understanding who is the audience, where is the artist based by territory in terms of views, listeners, followers, and also we pull out those reports that tell you in terms of demographics, male, female, by gender, age, like where is the fan from, and also how engaged is that fan, plus who are the notable followers, the biggest accounts following a specific artist profile. Going back to the engagement rates, this is something where actually the main thing to do is to compare that with other artist profiles that are in the same niche. So to understand the stats and take a step back, the the biggest value of those tools that follow all of the artists is that you have some sort of market comparison where you can say, well, this similar artist, I know that he's in the same niche. Um, do I have more radios, playlists? If you compare artist one, which has a lot of playlists but not many radio plays, and artist two of the same size or even a little smaller, which has 5 radio plays that we do not have, maybe that's what you need to know, and like to set achievable goals instead of wondering what the next step is. We do not have playlist contact details as this is not very us getting it and storing it and displaying it publicly. It's not very RGPD friendly. But you can go to see the playlist, go to Spotify and go to the curator page very easily. So we think that there is no development stage from which it becomes interesting to look at the data and like deep dive and compare yourself to other artists that are again in the same niche. Even an artist who has no data, you can see your audience number, and your number one goal is to be informed as soon as something happens, the first acceleration. And then you start to use the tool more only if something happens. The data comes to you whenever something happens. And all of a sudden, the one that you saw here becomes 10, becomes 15, and then you know that that something is happening. So this is the advantage of Soundcharts. Yeah, hello?
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 Oh, sorry.
Do you have a question?
Please keep all questions to the end or to the chat. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sorry.
Please mute.
No problem. So yeah, this is the advantage of Soundcharts. Up to a level of data, it's free. So you might as well like connect to it and set up reports, alerts, and don't wait until like, there are too much data for you to keep track of. So you can again, as I mentioned, you can track any artist, so you can see the engagement on Reels, on Shorts, on TikTok videos, on like, across all of these platforms, the views, the likes, the comments, and assess which posts are generating more traction, more views at the moment. Filter that and export that. A huge strong point on the platform is that you can basically export everything for any artist. So yes, artists from Latin America are also included. Artists from Asia, artists from Africa. It's not, we're not only tracking Western platforms. If you look at like any artist profile, and if you look at the connected data sources, you'll see that actually we're tracking platforms from Africa, from the Middle East, from India, from Korea, any from Japan as well, any platforms that for which we can extract the number of followers or play count or like demographics, anything, we track, and if we do not, we will in a few months. So yeah, we are the platform that tracks the most extensive range of streaming platforms and social services. Something else that you can do when comparing two artists is use this compare artist view, and you can say, well, those two artists, how do they compare actually? And you land on that page and you say, okay, you have that artist which is actually stronger in North America versus this one is stronger in Europe. In terms of fan base, how do they differ? In terms of social engagement or any metric, you can review, compare, and understand what's going on. Also, so what metrics would you prioritize when looking at cities to play live in? So, very good question. It will be very different if you have if you have an international audience, or if you have a very domestic audience and you're strong in your country. Let's look at a profile, for instance, and this artist called Jean, French artist. You can, on Soundcharts, first view the history of concerts, review the history of concerts for other similar artists, and see where they played and which venues they filled or not. And in the audience tab, it will tell you for a given country across Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and the others, how many views, how many listeners you have in that specific city. So it will not tell you for sure that you will fill out a given venue, but it will tell you if you're stronger in Milan versus Roma or the opposite in terms of people listening to you. And you can look at your profile, look at your artist profile, look at similar artist profile, and see if you have always the same patterns in terms of consumption. That may be an interesting signal to look at. So that view, the audience inside view with that little map and saying, well, I want to see the cities for a given country, that's interesting. However, the limitation is the following, that you won't have the markets for which you have little to no audience. Meaning here for this French artist, I don't know how many monthly listeners that artist has in Australia, for instance, but as he sings in French, my guess is little to none again. But all of the top markets will be referenced, and when you see a count of views, of followers, of listeners, it means that there are people listening or following the artist online. How do you track if a follower is in different platforms at the same time? Do you count them twice as a global amount? Yes, we do count them twice. What Spotify will tell us is that that artist has 10K followers. What YouTube will tell us is that this artist has 2K followers. We cannot know, as we're about like third-party data collection, we cannot know if someone is following the artist on several platforms. The only thing that we can say is if you have, if you are an influencer or an artist, you can see the connections here. If you have a like another big artist following this artist on Instagram and on TikTok or on YouTube, you will see that because that profile will appear in the notable followers sections 3 times. Back to that page. So I mentioned the comparison part. Another thing that you can do, where the tool is really powerful, is that it allows you to assess where is the artist in his niche. Meaning, clicking on hip hop rap and going here. So I just translated to the left part of the tool in the discovery part. There you can say, well, let's look at artists doing hip hop rap that are from France. So I say artist country is France. And it will tell me that I have, okay, 16K artists matching this specific criteria. And I can say, okay, within those artists, where is my artist? So you can search for this artist and see his ranking and the artists that are of the same size, but in that niche. You can add also other criteria to make some discoveries and say, well, let's add a couple of other filters so that I'll be sure to review only profiles that are of interest to me. And also profiles that are gaining traction at the moment so that I can look at their stats and maybe discover radio plays that will give me ideas for later or Spotify playlist entries. And in that case, you can add filter and say, I want to see only the artists that match those criteria, but that have a 3% growth in terms of followers on Spotify in the past platforms, social networks, and radio plays have endless possibilities for you to discover, track talents for any niche. If your artist is in the Ethio jazz niche, well, you will find all of the artists who do Ethio jazz and have all of their stats in there. Final thing I wanted to show you is if you work with artists and you have 5 or 6 talents you're working with, you might want to add them all to your favorites and then see all of their stats in one page like this. So these artists are exactly the artists that I added here. So I can keep track in real time all of their stats. And again, we're the best at like tracking all of it. And see if there are any tractions and if for a similar profiles those numbers do not tell the same story at all, or if it is indeed comparable. You can do the same on a song level, so that here I'm looking at all songs from my favorite artist that are generating a lot of streams right now. So a lot of French artists in my favorites, a few of them. So maybe back to the questions. Can you show us, please, the festival and venue part 2? Yes, of course. I can show you that very quickly. For now, it's really a beta thing that just was released like some days ago. It just shows for now festivals and like 46,000 festivals. And in the future, you'll be able to click on any name and get the lineup and see the previous editions lineup, etc. Same thing for venues. It's sort of a global reference of venues with all of their social stats and bands in town, songkick links aggregated in one place. Another question, when you get the subscription for one artist, you can change the artist you want to track over time. How does it work? Can you still do a favorite artist comparison? If you get the subscription for one artist, yes, you can change the artist after 28 days. So you have a system of credits. You say, let's track Jean, for instance, and after a month, you can decide to extract that from another artist and say, well, this credit is now allocated to Shaga, for instance, or Yame, and then track data about Yame. And yes, you can use this view here for your roster and even in the free plan. You'll be limited to 50 rows and yeah, 50 rows is a lot. So yes, you can still do that. I'll answer the question about Chartmetric just later on. Okay, no, maybe I'll answer it right away because I see a couple of other questions about that. So the strong points is basically the UX and UI, the interface, which is exactly the same on the mobile app. So in terms of how easy it is to access data, you might find it's easier to review that on Soundcharts rather than on other tools, though they're doing a very good job at it as well. Another difference would be the depth of the coverage. We track a lot of platforms that our competitors do not. So if you look at that table here and the number of data points that you can review in terms of follow count for, again, foreign platform, if you have any traction on like in the Middle East or in India, in any market where there are local platforms, yeah, you might want to use Soundcharts to track that. Another strong point that we have is the alerts, which is really in real time and everything related to the playlist entries. Like I highly advise you to go on a Friday morning and set up a couple of alerts on all of those tools and see which one tells you the good news first. And yeah, and you'll be surprised. So those are some differences. Otherwise, it's also a question of personal preferences, and all of those tools, they also do a really good job at it. final advantage is the 70% discount that you get on the first 3 months using the coupon code EMA70. Yeah. Third question: how deep is the history of the data? How far can we access data and can store reports for comparative use? We've been around since 2015. So here we're looking at a profile of the artist starting releasing music like 2 years ago. If I go to this artist here, for instance, if I go to AirPlay, you'll see that first play for this artist was in 2020. But if you look at Billie Eilish and other profiles, we have data since 2015 even. So it all depends on when we started to track a specific to follow and store in our database a specific data points. But yeah, you'll have for any artist at least 3 years of historical data on any vertical. And for a lot of data points, it will be actually 10 years of historical data that you'll find. And if you want to store reports, you can go to any page and export the data. You always have those little export CSV buttons on which you can click, and it sends a huge file to your email. So that's also one of the strong points. Is that when you click on export CSV, it doesn't just export the first 10 lines, it's actually the first 50K rows that are referenced there. So yeah, you can extract a lot of things on the platform. So yeah, another question about the total fan. Yeah, if it's so live gig data by artists is really good data to be capturing. Where are they playing? What size venue, festivals, etc. Soundkick and Bands in Town would be great data to have and compare against other similar artists. So yes, we do track concert data. For now, it's written concert by Soundkick, but actually we're pulling out data from EACEA, Ticketmaster, Spotify, Bands in Town, and basically all sources. So yeah, you will find for any artist a full listing, and in a few weeks we'll have another view for that page, the concerts that will replace that one, which will show you the data from all of those possible providers to have the most exhaustive view. Maybe am I missing anything? Do we plan TV stations? Yes, that's on the roadmap. So not yet, but this is clearly on the roadmap, and we'd like to move forwards on it soon. And yeah, creating your own metric to monitor. So Soundcharts, again, you can export anything. It was about the question, is it possible to create your own custom data bundles, relations, sort of creating your own metric to monitor? So creating your own metric in the dashboard is not yet possible. Of course, you can export any part of the tool and build something of your own, but also for people who like to play with the data, we also have an API which allows basically anyone to, for any artist, automate reports, populate Google Sheets, and extract any data that you see on Soundcharts plus more directly in your reporting tools, whatever they are. So going back to the latest messages. So are college stations included in tracking? Yes, we track a lot of college stations, especially in France and in Europe. So as we are a French company, we've been really good at tracking things on scale globally. and you will find the complete listing of radios here. So those are the 2,300 radios that we track. And for any country, you can say, okay, what's happening in Indonesia? What are the 32 radios that they track? And for any station, you can just go to the profile and review the charts of the most played songs on that given station and review the live feed about what was just played right now. Plus, you can always listen to sounds or to artists' music directly in app. So I won't do that, but you have a little player that appears here and you can listen to it. So for an artist who has just released their first 2 tracks, 5 months listeners, what data in Soundcharts would you recommend tracking in order to help the artist grow? You mentioned if there is not a lot of data, nothing will appear on Soundcharts. Yes, if you have 5 months listeners, we will display 5 months listeners, and we will display like 2 months listeners in London, one in Paris, one in Milan, and one in I don't know, Roma. So when looking at really small profiles, again, my number one advice would be to go to the audience reports when they're available, when the audience has like at least 1,000 followers on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube, understanding who they are, those first fans. And then once you get a good picture of it, look at similar artists again in the same niche. You say, well, okay, this artist does chamber music, and so I go to all artists doing that exactly and start maybe reviewing playlist entries for them here. Maybe they're a bit big, but you can say, well, let's look only at artists that are growing by X% in that niche. And then you say, okay, this artist is played on this station, on this playlist. So you translate that into like actionable goals rather than looking at an empty graph. Actually, when you have 5 months listeners, looking at your own artist profile is not something you want to do on any tool on a regular basis. I want to just look at it once, then fill out the sources, set up a date, and then as soon as something happens, you're the first to know. My Apple Music radio plays are different from the Soundcharts number. So yeah, in that case, oh yeah, sorry, it was a direct message. But yeah, basically, maybe Apple Music tracks some radios that we do not track. Maybe maybe we track some things that did not track. Again, you have the complete listing here, and if there are any differences, happy to investigate. You can send us the example here. We have a little chat intercom, and you can just say, hello, I know that I have this radio play that does not appear, and we investigate and we tell you if we can do anything about it. All right, did I miss anything? I'm browsing through the questions here.
Can you tell us about the venues to book a concert as a booker? That's another question.
The venues, so sorry, may I have a bit more details about that question just to make sure to understand it well?
CN, do you mind elaborating a little bit more, please? How can we track different venues to platform?
Okay, so like right now, again, the venue part of the tool is very early. So tomorrow you'll be able to like click on it and get insights. But as of today, like this here is not clickable. So it's really, again, this is ranking and a beta feature. You can only say, well, please show me all of the venues that are in France and that have a capacity of between I don't know, 100 and 1,000 people. And also they need to like the lineup of the concerts that happen at this venue need to be in the blues or country music genre. And also this needs to be in the city of Lyon or in Paris, for instance. So yeah, this is what you can do. So other questions. What data are you holding on things like Songkick, Bands in Town, and some of the other data source outside streaming? I'm always really interested in this data. Currently use Chartmetric, but restricted to only one artist source due to cost to sign up. Would be good to know how you directly compare against Chartmetric, as I might consider switching. Okay. So for the again concert tracking, you will be able for any artist to go to their profile, go to the concert page, which again will change in a few days to incorporate more sources. Today we only display Songkick information, and say, well, did that artist ever tour in France, or will he tour in France? Let's look at the past concerts. And I see that in here. So here are the upcoming concerts, here are the past concerts, and I say, okay, let's review only France. So I have the complete history of this artist in France, since the first concert to the latest one, and plus you have the upcoming concerts. So what we pull out are the capacity, the city. We will display in a few weeks the ticket cost as well, and we'd like to really build on that feature too. But I won't say too many things ahead of the release. But yeah, tracking more sources and making sure that we can define if officially a concert was sold out or not for any artist is something we'd like to do, and something we'd like to display. Great.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. Which prospecting tools are implemented in Soundcharts currently?
Which prospecting tools? By prospecting tools, do you mean like discovery tools?
Nuri, can you let us know, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, discovery tools, like I can give you my example. So I represent mostly producers and songwriters. For me, it would be very useful if I could look at evolving and trending artists, but not in absolute numbers, but sort of in a relational metric. My background was with major labels, so we had tools for that. So I was wondering if Soundcharts has something similar or some other prospecting tools already implemented.
Okay, so what I'll try to answer your question, and you tell me if I'm fully answering it or not really. But what we do have are those huge listings of entities, could be artists, could be songs, and this is used by A&Rs or festival programmers, curators to search for talents. Currently, when looking at artists, we're only talking about performing artists. So if they do not have a profile on Spotify as a performing artist, you won't have really a profile for them. Unfortunately, this will change in the future, but at this current moment, it's only performing artists. Then you can say, if you're searching for some specific profiles, you could say, let's maybe review only artists that are growing right now in terms of listeners, and that have at least a 1 or 2% growth in terms of Shazam count, for instance. Or maybe in terms of Instagram followers. Instagram followers total is between I don't know 1,000 and 100,000, and also it needs to be only artists from like a European country or from Germany, and also they need to match this or that criteria to do alternative or rock music. And then you'll end up with a listing of like 1,000 artists sorted by number of monthly listeners that match this criteria. Can also say they need to be played on air, but not more than a certain number of time, but not less than a certain number of times. So more than 100 plays, but less than 1,000 plays. And then again, the listing will change. So yeah, you can use that even with a free account, and you'll be limited to the top 50 rows, but you can already go to use any filters and go to a specific niche and say, well, this is my sort of scouting list. Does that make sense, or was it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very insightful demo. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you all for joining the session. We will be sending the recording in the upcoming weeks, along with the video from Gerland that we couldn't see it. So yeah, thank you all so much, and thank you as well for sending that generous discount code to our users.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.